Hey everybody. Alright, I know you didn't tune in to watch me drink coffee, but I will be drinking coffee and I will be thinking because I have been pondering another project. Now, a while back in some of my other videos, there's ideas always come around from comments, and comments and ideas always get my wheels turning. And I get on like the bug out bag video and on some of the other videos, like where I had a fireplace and things, people are like, this is neat, but I can't carry all the stuff. I'll have to have a wagon or a sled or, you know, something like that. And so I got to thinking to myself, I thought, I've got an extra bicycle. I've got a good bicycle, but I've got an extra bicycle that I always wanted to paint up all camouflage and neat like. And then I thought to myself, I want to put a little rack on the back so I can, with some uprights, so I can mount a backpack. Well, then I got to thinking, I got inspired by a pile of trash I found on the side of the road, and I'm fixing to show you what I dug out of that pile. So, I also come up with a kind of an idea that I got to thinking to myself that if you pull a trailer behind a bicycle with two wheels, or if you pull maybe a sled or, you know, something along those lines, you won't be able to get in between the trees like you want to. And so I have come up with the idea of a 3-point hitch, one-wheel trailer. Sort of like a trailer. You'll have to see as we go along. But it's an idea that I honestly believe you can still go uphill, downhill, and through trees and through narrow trails. And having one wheel, the resistance won't be as bad as two smaller wheels. And you'll be able to take corners better. So I'm just going to kind of bumble through this, and whatever I can, I'm going to try to bolt and rivet, you know, because I may have to weld some of the stuff, but if I get lucky and I wind up just bolting and riveting everything together, then people that don't have access to welding equipment, they can build the same thing that I'm building. But anyway, I think it's a really neat design. I've done rambled on for you know, almost 2.5 minutes. So let's show you real quick at what I have and what I'm going to do and how I'm going to get started. What we have here, this is my 12-speed bicycle. Okay, now this is an extra bicycle. I've got one much nicer. I've got a 15-speed, but this one I don't mind kind of doing a little modifying to it if I have to, and some additions. And I don't mind painting it up camo. The other one I don't want to. Now this over here is an old Mongoose Bicycle. Okay, this thing this was literally laying on the side of the road. Now I don't know what all I'm going to use out of this thing, but I definitely know that I'm going to be using the front tire and the front fork, so I'm going to take it apart right there. Alright. Now the other exciting little piece of trash that I found in the same pile. See if we can get this out. I saw this and I thought now what is this thing right here? Look at how much metal is in here. Look at this tubing. So I got to looking at it and I got to realizing that what it is it is a chair that someone has removed the cloth from. See? So there's a lot of good metal in there. A lot of good metal. So I'm going to try to use that. This is some good tubing. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to start out with that. And I'm going to take my die grinder and I'm going to cut all the rivets loose so that I'll have this metal here, and then I'm going to take the front fork of the bicycle apart, and then we'll just sort of go from there. Now I believe some of these rivets, they can either have the heads ground off of them, or if you're lucky you can take a drill and you can drill the heads off, or you can take a hacksaw, but I'm going to try my air hacksaw. That way it's pretty fast. And that way, like, there's a rivet inside here where this joint is, and I'll just try to saw right through the rivet. See, it comes right loose. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, and then the plastic will come right off, or should come right off. I'll just pop it right off, just like that. And then pull the rivet out. Alright, so I'm just going to dismantle all this, and those are the tools that I'll be using. I'll be drilling some rivets out, and I'll be sawing some rivets off. As you can see, I have everything laid out here on the table. And this has kind of changed my plans a little bit. I'm going to have to put a little bit more thought into this. Alright? So, because there's now, this is not steel. This is like aluminum, which I can't pronounce. Now, some of the pieces came out as just pieces that I cut out. Okay, there's a couple cut out. Here's a couple of pieces. Got some bends in them, got some holes in them. Well, I got to looking at these cross pieces, and I thought I left the rivet in the middle because I'm like, maybe I can do something with it. And then I got to looking at these little brackets out on the end, and I thought, well, maybe I can do something with them. So there's two of those. And then I got to looking at these things, how it's got this neat plastic bracket on it that slides like this. And I left that rivet in because it allows it to pivot. And then I got to looking at the top of these swivel things, and I thought, well, maybe I can bolt some sort of a platform to this that I could strap a backpack to. So I left both of these assemblies together. You know, I mean, this is so full of cool stuff. Now on the armrest, it's a bent piece, and it had some padding with this little thing on it. Well, I thought, well, I want to remove this red. So what I did is I slipped I unscrewed this bracket, and I slipped this red thing off, and then I found a padded piece. And this padded piece, I can just screw this thing right back on. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things that I could do on here. And one of the things I got to thinking about is instead of using the forks on the back of the bicycle, using those big heavy forks, I got to thinking, maybe there's a way that I can just bolt the frame directly to it that I'm going to have. Because see, what I had in mind, I don't know if I could show this or not. What I had in mind is, after looking at this stuff, is there a way that I could bolt this to it and then have the platform mounted up on top of here, and then have arms, going from here to the other bicycle like a trailer. So like I said, I'm going to have to ponder over all this stuff and look at it and think about it. But you know, sometimes you can buy steel to use, and then other times you can do things like this. And not only are you recycling, but I mean, there's so many little gadgets and doodads and pivot points and sliding things, and just, I mean, it opens up the juices, the creative juices for whatever it is that you want to build. And I think this is going to be awesome. And if I can possibly get by with just using the parts and pieces from this chair and this one wheel, it'll all be super lightweight, which is even better. Because the less that whole bicycle and trailer weighs, the more gear I can carry with it. Okay, so alright, I think that's enough for today. I'm going to think about this for a while, and then we're going to get back and get started. Here it is, day 2. Now, I went to work today. Now, I should say, after I left here last night, I got to thinking about it. And I thought about this all night. And then I got to thinking about the parts I took apart. And then when I went to work today, I got to thinking all day long, rolling through my head. And I realized now I'm only going to use the wheel. I don't think I said anything about it earlier in the other video. I mean, yesterday when I was filming. But I was talking about using the actual forks from the other bicycle. But all I'm going to use is the wheel. And it's going to be real hard to explain this, the thing I have come up with. And it may or may not work, I don't know. But the idea is it's going to be all very, very lightweight. And it's going to be all streamlined to where there's not going to be a whole bunch of resistance and a whole bunch of width. And not only the little trailer looking device thing I'm adding to the back, not only will it be able to carry some gear, but I can also wear a backpack too, which kind of doubles up on what I can carry. And in the future I may add some sort of a little rack to the front if this works. And a place for, like inside the tube there, where I can have like a water carrier. But I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this here real quick. can't explain it, just got to show you and just tell you what I'm envisioning one step at a time, and then you'll see it at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take that rivet out of this piece because I'm not going to need this X. And I'm just going to use these as two separate pieces. And what I'm going to do is on the back here, this seems to be the perfect distance that there's some holes right here that I'm going to bolt one to. And then I want this to trail behind this, just like this. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bracket that bolts onto here and bolts onto here, and then has another bracket, another little place that I can bolt on an upright that comes straight up here like this. And I think it's going to be something. It's going to be something out of this. I'm not sure which piece it's going to be. But I'm going to do this from here to here. I'm going to have one on this side, one on that side. And then there's going to be something coming up right here. Alright? Makes no sense at all, but it will later. I discovered something on these soft rivets here that you don't really have to grind them off since they're aluminium or aluminum. They're soft, and all you got to do is let's see, put them in a vise. Let's see, put them right here. The other one was on opposite, so it didn't stick down in there. You can put it in there and take a punch and just beat it through. See, it's starting to come out. Just got to continue beating on it. Beat it, beat it. No one wants their rivets mistreated. There you go. And that's how you get it out. Now that I've got these pieces done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this hole a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to use the bolt that came with it, because the bolt happens to have an actual lock nut which will keep it from unscrewing. Now this may be loud, but I'm going to try to drill through this. Whoop. There we go. Now there was an existing hole there, and so I just opted to make it a little bigger. So what I'll do now is I'll cut this bolt off and slide it through and bolt it from the back side. And see, that'll be my that'll be one of my trailing arms that I'm going to attach this back wheel to right here. Once I get both of these done and bolted on, I can measure for my tabs. So I'm locking this thing down. Now it's got a nylock nut, so the nut won't come loose because there's nylon holding it, but this arm will still swivel like I want. The other end of this arm here, I want to open it up a little bit for a bigger bolt where it attaches to the wheel, but I don't want to open it up too far that way. I don't want to thin it out, so I'm gonna, instead of using a drill bit, I'm going to use a cutter called an end mill, and that way I'll take all the meat off of this side. See, that way I made it bigger, but I didn't remove none of the thickness over on this side of the hole. So what I'll do next is I'll take this scrap piece of aluminum, and I'm going to cut out two little plates, and then that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to measure the hole centers from here to here, and I'm going to make them to where the plate bolts here and this arm bolts on. And then I'm going to have a little tab up on top to where another piece will bolt on up here. Alright. Alright, so that is my bracket. Well, brackets. As I drilled the holes, every time I would drill a hole, I would bolt it together. That way I made sure that the holes lined up. That way I can make sure that the brackets were the same. And they wasn't going to move around. So see, now I have two identical brackets. Whoop, I dropped one. Now I have two identical brackets because they were drilled at the same time. So what this looks like now is I'm going to take and I'm going to put one bracket on here. I mean, the hole ain't big enough. Now wait a minute, it is. There it goes. Real tight. Alright, so we're going to put this on. I'll tighten all this up in a little while. So now what I'm going to do is this rod is going to bolt on right here. Just like that. See, that's that rod that goes to that thing. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run the bolt through there. And what I've done is I put an O-ring on the inside of the bolt to cushion it to keep from crushing it. That way, let's see, that way, get a nut started here so that I can put it on. Well, anyway, I ain't got to get that started yet. That way, this thing will still be able to move up and down as it goes over hills. So I'm going to bolt both sides on, and then I'll show you what the next step will be. So I've got the back wheel totally bolted on now. And what we're looking at is I have the two bars right here with the little bracket that I made. And this thing is now independent of this. And I even pulled the spindle out and I greased it. So it runs true and slick and smooth. Alright, now that I have this in line, part of the reasons why I didn't take all of this stuff apart is because I got to noticing how this thing is riveted on. This was the actual bottom of the chair. How it sat down and it would swivel onto whatever was on the ground. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take one on each side. This one right here, it's got kind of an angle to it. And then this one is just flat. And what I'm going to do now, this makes no sense at all, but I plan on putting a platform up on the top, mounting it to these flat pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this one off, and I'm going to mount it right above. So it's going to be right above where this tire is. And then I'm going to cut this one off, and there's another hole right here, and I'm going to mount it right up here. Right? Ain't that neat? So that's what we're going to do next. Won't make any sense at all until it's finished, but I'm going to saw all four of these off and then bolt them to the bicycle, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Good old cutoff oil. Simple as that. Alright, so we got the legs sawed off. Let's put some holes in them. Let's see. Put them from this side. Here's a finished leg. I got two holes in it. Swivel pad. So what I'm going to do now is drop the bolts in. And then bolt it to this. Just like that. Alright, so now what I've got is I have one of them ready. Okay. And it's got this nice swivel pad up here where the top part is going to bolt from here up to here. It's going to bolt from here up to here because the next one will be mounted up here. Alright, so what I just did to this, I cut it off, I drilled it, and I bolted it. Now I'm going to do 3 more like that. And then I'll show you the next. So I've got all these things bolted on now. I have all 4 of them bolted on. Now, if you'll see back here on the back, I have this one plate that I made with a hole in it for this. That not only does it lift up like that, but since I have bolted this rod to this pivots forward just a little bit. Okay? So I've got these 2 on here, and these are bolted by 2 bolts, which makes them solid. Okay, they're bolted solid to this thing. They don't pivot here, they pivot down here. Up here, these 2 are bolted by 1 bolt so that they pivot. Okay, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it will in a minute. Well, it will by the time the video's over. Now I'm going to take a yardstick and some C-clamps, and I'm going to clamp this here to show you an idea of what comes up next. Alright, I got some pieces clamped up here, and what this is going to be is this is going to be a piece of metal that I'm going to be able to bungee cord packs or a backpack or a duffel bag on. Hopefully it'll be a duffel bag. And now what I've done here is this would have been hard and this would have been so much fabricating if I would have had to have built every single piece by hand. But cutting up this chair has just been a lifesaver because it's created swivels and pads and pivot points everywhere. So the way this thing works now is once I get that thing bolted on there, if all works out, as I'm going over bumpy ground, the whole thing should be able to move like this. Alright? So the next step is I'm going to take a piece of sheet metal and I'm going to bend it to size, and I'm going to use it for the cargo tray. So that's the next today. Didn't even go in the house because I'm inspired. All right. Now I'm inspired by my recycling lightweight part of this project, and I had remembered there was an old patio table that was on our deck that had a glass top, and one year a tree limb fell through and busted the glass top. So all I have now is the lightweight aluminum frame. So I think what I'm going to try to do is for the rails, the cargo rails, I'm going to cut this frame up and try to use it for the other part of the bicycle. And if all goes well, I'm hoping that all of the additions that I add to this bicycle are going to be super lightweight. So I'm going to start unbolting this thing and cutting it and seeing what I come up with. But all you see here is pretty much all the good usable stuff that I got out of that table frame. Now there's plenty of aluminium tubing here, or aluminum. Can't pronounce it, but I got plenty of good tubing here that's got like bends in it and stuff, and then there's some brackets right there, and then I wound up with a big pile of bolts and nuts that are nylon nuts, which are pretty cool. But now what interests me is that frame right there. I plan on cutting the weld right there. I have to look away from the camera right there. I'm going to cut it right there, and then I'm going to come on down here and cut it right here into 2 pieces. Alright, and so that's what I'm after there. This other stuff, I may use parts and pieces of it, but it's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to have a neat bicycle made out of parts of another bicycle and a chair and a table. So I got my 2 long pieces of material cut out, and that's what they look like. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to bolt them bolt them to each other. So what I got to thinking is one of those legs what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off at 8 inches. And then I'm just going to put this back on and use these existing holes because they line up with the other thing. And then I'm going to put this one on and drill new holes. And what they're going to do is they're going to line up precisely with the back of this. And that'll be my back brace. And then I'll cut some more pieces and put one in the middle and one towards the front. Alright. So now I have the piece sawed out and the ends deburred. This already has holes. So I got these marked. I just have to drill these holes. Let's see. And then put these things back on. And then this piece will be ready to bolt right on here, just like that. Just like that. Now that ought to hold the back end secure. Alright, got the holes in. See if it lines up. See, it's great to use pre-existing holes for this stuff. And there you have it. Alright, got the back part done. Now I just got to work on the putting braces in the middle. And it's going to be a good solid connection right there. Good solid connection. And I'll be able to wrap a bungee cord around this part or around this part. Alright, the back brace is done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move towards the middle brace and I'll show you something that's pretty cool right here now. I've got this piece here cut off and I got the holes drilled in it. And another cool thing is I salvaged some of the little plastic caps. So at least this part is going to have like a neat, clean little appearance on it. So just pop them in, just like that. Then we're going to put this on. So grab a couple of bolts. Put that one in. Spread that out. Bolt that in. And see, this will be one of the bottom braces. Get it right there. And then just put some nuts on the underneath right there. See? And then what I'll do next is I'll just put a brace up here on the end and then we'll be ready to bolt it to the bicycle. Alright, so I've got my cargo mount done. As you can see, I put another one right here on the front. And what I did is I took one of those little devices and I put it on before I bolted it on. That way what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bolt in the end of it. And then I'm going to have a spring attached right here. And the spring is attached right here on the back of the seat. So what I'm going to do tomorrow, I think I've done enough for today, is tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out about where I want to mount this thing. Just like that. And then I'm going to drill some holes and I'm going to mount it. And that will be my cargo rack. Ain't that neat? I don't know. Let me see this here now. It may not stay up. It may all fall back over without that spring. But that's basically it right there. Alright. And like I said, I think the whole assembly is going to wind up being under 5 pounds, which is awesome. Because I don't want to add a bunch of extra weight to the bicycle. That's what the packs and the backpacks and the duffel bag and all that'll do. So, we'll come out tomorrow and I'll clamp it up and bolt it on. Alright, I am back in the shop after a hard day of work at my real work. Now, what I've decided, I got to thinking about it and about attaching this part to this part. I got to wondering, am I going to use a bolt and a nut or am I going to use a screw? Well, then I remembered I had these great big giant rivets. Huge rivets, 3/16 rivets by about 3/4 long. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to rivet these. So I'm going to drill through from the bottom and put the rivet through the top and then pull it through. That way these pop rivets will never come loose. Alright, I'm going to put 2 for each leg. Alright. And there we go. Pot riveted into place. Perfect. It's just what I wanted. Alright, so last time we left off, I was putting rivets in it. And I have now got the top completely on, got it all cleaned up, and got it sitting here on the ground. Now, some of these things that I want to look at here is I put a spring on right here so that this can shift back. I'll show you more about it in a minute. Now, where I put the rivets pulled through the plastic, so I had to put bolts. Alright, see on down here I put bolts in it. But it's all put together, and what I'm going to do now is before I'm going to slap some camouflage paint on it, try to make it a little bit more presentable. I'm going to show you a little bit more of the details of it. Alright, it's very windy today, and so I got on my microphone, and I hope it works. Now, I have bungee cords here, and I have a big old duffel bag, and that's what's supposed to fit on the back. Okay, well, let's talk about a few other things here. Let me adjust this up to where I can see what I'm doing. Now, I'm going to walk over here. Now, this bicycle here, I've got this part on. All right, now the reason everything is on a pivot, and it's got a spring here, so that this will allow to be like a shock absorber. Now, the other thing with the other pivots is as this goes over hills, it'll bounce up and down. Now, the idea, I've got these wheels in line, so I'm not going to have a real sharp turning radius for curves and turns. I'm going to have to take it kind of big. But there's enough wobble in this that I think this thing's going to trail behind pretty good. Now, if I get into a tight spot and I have to push the bike around, I simply put my hand here and lift up. And as you can see, I'm eliminating the middle wheel. And see, and I just move it around to wherever I want it, and then set the bike back down. Now, the way this part back here is going to work is I can either strap two backpacks to it, or I can have my own backpack on, which would give me the capacity for 3 backpacks, because I would have one back here, and then I'd be wearing 2. Or I set this up for this duffel bag so that I can have a duffel bag, and what I'll do is I'll bungee cord it to it, and then I could even have a small butt pack or something, or a cook kit or something mounted up here in the front, or I could just pull this all the way forward and put the butt pack or a smaller pack in the back here and just bungee cord it all down. All right, so in the meantime, what I'm going to do is before I take this out in the woods and test it, I am going to camouflage everything. Now, I bought a set from Walmart of those paints, the light green, the dark green, and the coyote, and I'm just going to kind of splash around on everything here because the spirit lettering and the camouflage, I mean the gray from the chair and the aluminum from the table just don't get it. So I'm just going to kind of splash around with some colors of green and coyote and stuff. It's not going to be a real good looking job, but just enough to give it kind of a cool factor. And then I'm going to load it up in the truck, and we're going to go hit the woods and test it out after the paint dries. Probably tomorrow, maybe 2 days from now, I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to get the camera too close to it. I don't want to get paint on it. What I did is I covered the whole thing with a sage green, and now I'm just holding leaves up against it and spraying around it with a different color. today is the big test day. So what I want to do is right off the bat, I want to see that this thing is easy to load and unload. So I'm wearing a microphone because it's a windy day and because I am so far away from the camera. Alright, so let's see how we're going to do this now. Alright, I have the whole thing put together, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this part off, and then how am I going to lift this up? I'm going to grab it just like this. Okay, the loading part, the unloading is relatively easy, and I assume that the loading part will be just as easy when I pick up and just put it back on like that. Alright, now to me that's a lot faster and easier than dealing with some kind of a trailer. Alright, so let's take a look at it and see what it looks like now. Alright, so this is kind of a decent looking shot of it right here. I may get up close in a little while so that you can see the camo job. It's not that great of a camo job, but it'll work. Now, the beauty of this thing right here, to me, is if I get another mountain bike, okay, that thing will easily come off because all I got to do is undo that spring and then undo 4 bolts right here. And then from here up and over, all of this all comes off. And I can put it on another bike. Or if this was used as like a bug out bike, once you got to your camp, you can pull this off and then you have access just to a regular bicycle without toting that thing around. There's a little bit closer of a shot of the camo job. I didn't do a whole lot of camo into it, and I may add to it later on, but I got the basic idea of what I wanted. Not to mention it kind of adds the cool factor. Now let's just look and see what a typical, well, actually it's not a typical loadout. Actually, this is a whole lot more than what I would carry with me, but this would be the maximum, okay? So let's say a duffel bag completely full, and I would say 20 to 30 pounds, but I'm gonna call it maximum of 30 pounds, okay? Now, I would have a butt pack so that once I got to camp, I'd have something to wear when I hiked away, okay? So let's say duffel bag 30 pounds, and there's you another 5 pounds, possibly 10 pounds, let's call that 5 pounds. Now, here's another little pack right here, okay? This is a little dual pack. I'm gonna call that 5 pounds conservatively. Could be more, could be 10. Or I'm calling these two 10 pounds. You know, could be 20 pounds, this could be less. Then I'll have, okay, oh yeah, and this big old honking machete here that I would never in a million years wear on my belt. Let's say this will be one of the opportunities that I will carry it. And then a medium Alice pack. What do you think? 20 pounds, maybe 30 pounds? I'll be wearing this on my back. But now, I'm not going to wear it today because it may get in the way of this microphone, okay? But on a typical day, that's what I will carry with me. And then I got, of course, some bungee cords. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load all this stuff up on there, and I'm going to see how well it performs now. I'm going to ride it out here in the field a little bit, and then I think I may take it into the woods and see how it does over a log. Cool. Let's see what it's going to look like, how I'm going to load this thing out. All right. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the back here, like that. All right. Now if I wanted to bring an axe, I would put an axe up on top. So I'm going to put a machete on top. Now I'm going to put a bungee cord on right in the middle. Stretch it around, put it on. Let's see, right like that. Put on another bungee cord. Right like that. So now I've got the duffel bag strapped on, and I got the machete strapped on. All right, now that wasn't too bad. So let's now I'm going to take the butt pack, And what I'm going to do with the butt pack is I'm going to slide a bungee through the top like that. And then I'm going to set it on the front here just like that. I want to make sure I'm getting that apart on camera. Can't really see from the glare. I'm going to move it over a little bit. Oh yeah, you can see good right there. Yeah. All right, I got this strapped on with a machete up on top. And then this thing right here, what I'm going to do is just pull this out and come around. And I've got it strapped into place. All right, there you go. The whole thing moves. All right, now the other part up here on the front, I don't know what kind this, what this pack is, but this is some kind of, I think it went with a Swedish army rucksack that I used to have. But this thing right here, this will be another good weight distribution thing. I mean, it just sits right there, and it probably would sit there. But I'm gonna go ahead and add a bungee to it, just like that. So here's kind of another little overview of it loaded. That's what it's going to look like. So now let's just hop on it and take it off into the field and see how it works. All right, I'm going to go out there and make a big circle. Now, like I said, normally I'll be wearing a backpack, but I think it'll get in the way of this cordless microphone. Oh man, so far so good. Now later on I may get a true mountain bike. This is just kind of a piece of junk that I've working with. Now see this narrow spot right here? That's the beauty of this thing, is that you don't have like a three-wheel type deal behind you. Now with the low gear of this thing being a 12 speed, it seems to be doing pretty good. I don't know about the real hilly part. Now, I've got another bicycle at home. I've got a 15 speed. And I think a 15 speed may be better for hilliness. You know, this is actually taking the curves a lot better than I thought it would. Now let's see if I can come back through there. Check out the load I'm carrying. Now this is a little wobbly, but it ain't that bad. See how the load looks. Oh, well, the load is still strapped on, so that's pretty good. Now I got to inspect my footage to make sure I actually caught all of that. Let's head to the woods, and I want to try to find an obstacle. I want to try to find an obstacle that I can go over and see how well it does. All in all, this is pretty dang good right here. I'm pretty happy with it. I put a lot of thought into this, but not a lot of design. if that matters. I think not only will this help out with my camping adventures, it's probably going to help me out making videos too. There's no doubt about that. Because this way I can carry my tripod and all my camera gear, and I can carry everything else that I need. All right, the woods were so thick that I couldn't find a place. I couldn't find a place to find any obstacles to go over. So I found this right here. There's some logs right here, and this is something I wouldn't want to ride over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate like if I was in this situation and I'm riding along the trail, what I would do is get off the bike, and then I would push the bike over all this. Now, I'm mainly curious as to see how this back part works when going over a log like this bigger one right here. So what we're going to do is the suspension worked good over the small one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to pull it over. There, and the suspension worked pretty good on that. So let's try to pull it over this. All right, let's turn around and go the other way just one more time. All right, front wheel goes over. Grab the frame here. The back wheel comes over, and everything suspends like a suspension should. And there we go. I think that's a success. All right. All right, well, I am extremely happy with this thing. Things this complicated and this radical of a design don't always work out right the first time, but I mean, I have absolutely no complaints over this. And I think, honestly, this will carry the amount of weight of anything I could ever need, because I'm thinking between my backpack, the duffel bag, or even a bigger duffel bag, and the butt pack and the pack up front, I think I can carry a total of 60 to 70 pounds of gear, which is, I mean, you could very easily last for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, maybe. Depending on if you had hunting, fishing, or trapping gear. But whether you want to bug out or whether you want to camp or whatever, I love this design. I think it's worked out great. And the other cool thing, when I was talking about that I can unbolt this thing by a couple of bolts and put it on another bike, the fact that the rear wheel is so small, it'll match a mountain bike if I ever find one. So, hope you enjoyed this little project. And like I said, this thing, it came from there was no welding. It was all drilling and bolting, and I tried riveting, but it was an old chair, and it was an old, I don't forget what an old table frame, and there was something else involved with it. Oh yeah, an old bicycle. So I mean, it's just all recycled junk, and I think it turned out wonderful. I'm very happy with it, and I'm probably going to use this on filming more often. You know, I think it'll make me getting to filming locations a lot easier, because I mean, it's bad to hike in 2 miles with all the camera gear and equipment and set up, film, and then have to load it all up and hike out another 1 to 2 miles. So with this thing, I'll be there in no time. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had fun. I had a lot of fun. And I shall see you in the next one.